The sound of hurried footsteps echoed through the polished halls of the Galactic Concorde's central station. An assistant, a wiry Cathari with pale, segmented skin and nervous, darting eyes, clutched a data drive in his trembling hands. His breathing was ragged, his robes dishevelled, a stark contrast to the usual composed nature of those who worked within the heart of the Concorde. The doors to the High Council's chamber loomed ahead, massive and ornate, meant to symbolize order and stability. Today, they felt more like the entrance to a battlefield. The guards barely had time to react before the assistant stumbled forward. "Priority report for the meeting. Urgent," he gasped, shoving the data drive into the hands of a waiting official. Inside, the chamber was already filled with senior representatives from the most powerful factions in the galaxy. This was not a routine gathering. This was an emergency session, one called in haste, attended only by the highest-ranking members of the Concorde. The chamber itself was an immense amphitheatre, carved from the very core of the station, its towering walls lined with glowing displays of star charts and security feeds. The architecture, meant to inspire balance and diplomacy, now seemed insignificant under the weight of the crisis at hand. At the centre of it all, standing before a massive hollow screen, was High Scholar Emsith of the Volari Collective. His normally calm, analytical demeanour was strained, his translucent wings flickering with agitation. The moment the data drive was inserted into the central console, the screen flared to life. Rows of text scrolled past in alien script detailing what had been uncovered. Then came the images. Explosions of unfathomable scale, weapons that defied logic, blueprints of devices that could shatter fleets with a single strike. A murmur rippled through the chamber. The tension, already suffocating, deepened. Ambassador Vrelk of the Zyphor Confederacy, his angular form hunched forward in evident distress. His species had long been regarded as the undisputed masters of weaponcraft, their arsenals the pinnacle of precision and lethality. For centuries, the Zyphor had been the gold standard in military engineering, their warships bristling with the most advanced energy weapons, their ground forces wielding the deadliest armaments the galaxy had ever seen. Yet, as the data before him suggested, they were not the masters, not anymore. His chitinous fingers drummed anxiously against the table, the sharp click echoing louder than he intended. "I do not understand," Vrelk rasped, his mandibles clicking with frustration. "It has been mere cycles since the humans have joined us, yet their arsenal dwarfs even the most advanced of our armaments. How is this possible? How can a species so enamored with destruction not have eradicated itself before even coming to the galactic stage?" Vrelk's mandibles clicked in frustration. By all logic, they should have turned their world to ash long before reaching the stars. Across from him, High Scholar Emsith of the Volari Collective adjusted his delicate spectacles, their crystalline lenses glinting under the chamber's artificial lighting. His translucent wings, folded neatly against his back, twitched ever so slightly, an involuntary sign of unease among his kind. "That," Emsith said, his voice measured yet tinged with incredulity, "is the most baffling part. We have observed civilizations rise and fall under the weight of their own war engines. We have seen empires expand, consume, and inevitably collapse under the strain of their own aggression." He gestured toward the floating projections. And yet, humans, they survived. They mastered war, but they also mastered survival. Their weapons grew ever more powerful, yet their destruction remained controlled, governed by deterrence, strategy, and a strange, almost contradictory reverence for both warfare and peace. They fight, but they know when to stop. They advance destruction, yet fear its consequences. It is a delicate balance, and somehow they have walked that line without falling. Vrelk turned his gaze toward another figure at the table, one who had remained silent until now. Commander Tok Van of the Dreth Consortium was a towering brute, his thick carapace lined with battle scars, each one a testament to a lifetime of combat. Unlike the others, his expression held no fear, only skepticism. He crossed his massive arms, his exoskeletal plates scraping against each other with a sound like grinding stone. "Perhaps they simply had no true rivals before now," Tok Van grumbled, his deep voice like the rumbling of distant thunder. "Maybe their time of dominance is over." Emsith let out a dry, humourless laugh. "I wouldn't be so sure. With a flick of his clawed fingers, he activated the central holoscreen. The chamber dimmed as a towering projection of Earth's history of warfare filled the space above them. The soft hum of the system activating was quickly drowned out by the sheer visual impact of what was now on display. The timeline was vast, spanning millennia. At first it showed primitive battles, iron blades clashing, gunpowder igniting. Then it progressed rapidly. Muskets, cannons, tanks, bombers, missiles, nuclear warheads. Each advancement was swift, almost relentless. The level of destruction escalated exponentially with each era. A silence settled over the chamber, the weight of the images pressing down on the assembled delegates. Emsith's voice was grave as he gestured toward the screen. Let us review the facts before making assumptions. The final segment of the timeline glowed ominously, revealing humanity's most devastating creations. And it was only the beginning. The holoscreen hummed as it displayed its next terrifying revelation. A crackling image filled the chamber, depicting a desolate tundra beneath a mushroom cloud that stretched into the heavens, a towering inferno of fire and devastation. The light from the explosion turned night into day, and the sheer force of the detonation rippled outward in a shockwave that shattered windows hundreds of kilometers away. The delegates watched in silence, the magnitude of the destruction freezing their voices in their throats. The Sarthari Dominion representative let out an almost shriek, a muffled, instinctive sound of fear quickly swallowed in the tense silence. Emsith spoke, his voice measured but heavy with something close to awe. This, he took a breath, is their thermonuclear weapon, he said, gesturing toward the frozen frame of destruction. The most powerful nuclear device ever detonated by humanity, with a yield of 50 megatons. A single bomb, capable of leveling entire cities, wiping out millions in an instant. The chamber remained deathly still as the image shifted, showing the aftermath, a wasteland of scorched earth, unrecognizable ruins, a world forever scarred by the power of one human-made device. And yet, Emsith continued, his wings twitching with barely restrained unease. Instead of using such weapons to annihilate themselves, they treated them as grim testaments to their destructive potential. They built weapons so powerful that their very existence forced them into restraint. They call it deterrence, a paradox, truly. Commander Tokvan clicked his mandibles, his claws scraping against the table. A species that builds a weapon capable of wiping itself out, yet refuses to use it. That is not normal behavior. Vrelk, still transfixed by the images, let out a low hiss. It implies something far more dangerous than mindless aggression. It means they understand destruction better than any of us. They wield it, but they also control it. Vrelk's mandibles clicked uneasily as he pointed a claw toward the next contraption on display. Its design was unlike anything seen in the arsenals of the Concorde. Multiple barrels arranged in a rotating cluster, an ominous mechanism humming with barely contained fury. What is that?" he asked, his voice laced with apprehension. Before anyone could answer, the holoscreen shifted, as if responding to Vrelk's question. The new projection showed another human invention, a monstrous contraption of rotating barrels, spinning at impossible speeds, belching an unrelenting storm of metal. The scene displayed it in action, rounds fired so rapidly that they blurred into a continuous stream, tearing through barriers, shredding metal plating as if it were paper. Tokvan's mandibles clamped shut in disbelief. Emsith exhaled. "And then there are these rotary guns," he muttered, staring at the carnage unfolding before them. "Weapons that do not merely fire projectiles but spew a relentless torrent of death. The sheer volume of fire, even the hardest armor crumples under it. Who designed such a thing? Even we never conceived of such madness in our most violent eras. Who builds a weapon designed to saturate the battlefield with death? A species that loves war, that's who." The hologram continued its grim showcase, parading one weapon after another, each more horrifying than the last. Some left the gathered aliens in stunned silence, others drew involuntary flinches or murmurs of disbelief. Each display carved a deeper mark of awe and dread into their minds, a relentless reminder of humanity's mastery over destruction. Emsith let out a slow, uneasy breath, his wings shuddering. "And if these were the weapons of their past," he continued, voice barely above a whisper, "then one can only imagine what they have crafted now." A dreadful silence settled over the chamber as the realization took hold. If such monstrous instruments of war had existed in humanity's primitive history, devices so devastating they could still challenge the most advanced armaments of the present, then what horrors had they built in recent times? The assembled delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their fear mounting. Another shift. This time, the projection changed from conventional human weaponry to something far worse, something that had already been forged into reality. The schematics before them were complex, but not unfamiliar. Many of the gathered species had their own advancements: plasma-based weaponry, high-yield energy cannons, and even experimental gravitational warheads. They were not primitive by any means. The Dreth Consortium had long prided itself on its mass driver cannons, capable of launching projectiles at near relativistic speeds. The Valari had spent centuries perfecting energy-based weaponry, and the Zyphor Confederacy had been on the cusp of breakthroughs in singularity-based ordnance. But as the display continued, it became abundantly clear that humanity had not only matched their advancements, but surpassed them. Vrelk exhaled sharply, shaking his head. And now their weapons do not just rival ours, they surpass them in every way. More refined, more precise, more devastating. His voice was tight, his spined fingers curling into a loose fist. They took the same plasma technology we use and perfected it, making their rifles output twice the energy with the same power source without overheating. Their sidearms, once similar to ours, now fire with greater velocity, penetrate deeper and recharge faster, all while using less material. He let out a bitter chuckle. And their ion cannons, those abominations, can disintegrate entire warships with a single shot. Then came the final revelation. The holoscreen shifted once more, revealing a sleek, menacing design labelled in sharp human script. The council members leaned in, their translators working to decipher the meaning. The shape was eerily familiar, similar to a project several species had been developing in secret, a weapon theorized but never completed. Their translators rendered the name into something chilling. Antimatter particle cannon. Murmurs erupted through the chamber. The Dreth had been working on such a weapon for over a century, but they had barely moved beyond theoretical models. The Zyphor had considered the concept too unstable to pursue, and yet the humans had already built it, already perfected it. Even Tokvan, so dismissive before, now looked visibly disturbed. Emzith's voice was almost a whisper. "Do you know what the humans call them?" A pause. "Remove that direction gun." Vrelk shuddered in disbelief. They gave a weapon capable of obliterating entire fleets a casual name? Emzith nodded, and they laughed about it. The delegates exchanged uneasy glances. The sheer absurdity of the humans was beginning to settle into something deeply, terrifyingly real. Emzith finally spoke, his voice quieter now, his gaze never leaving the floating blueprints. "It is in their nature. The humans, it seems, are not mere warriors. They are artists of war." He gestured to the countless weapons displayed before them. Their weapons are not merely tools of destruction. They are crafted with precision, efficiency, and, dare I say, passion. They do not create weapons simply to kill. They create to master the art of killing. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The weight of their realization pressed down on the gathered representatives like a crushing gravity well. Before them, the holoscreen still displayed the nightmarish arsenal of humanity, an evolving testament to their terrifying ingenuity. Tokvan exhaled sharply, breaking the quiet. "So," he grunted, "what do we do? Should we limit their advancements? Place sanctions on their weapon manufacturing?" The suggestion hung in the air, but the tension did not ease. No one responded immediately. High Scholar Emzith steepled his fingers, his gaze cold and calculating. "That would be unwise. Tell me, Commander, would you willingly provoke the most efficient killers in the galaxy?" Tokvan's mandibles clicked, his posture stiffening. He hesitated, but the answer was obvious. "No," he admitted, voice lower now. "No, I would not." Vrelk exhaled deeply, his chitinous fingers tapping against the table in thought. "Then there is only one course of action. We ensure we remain their allies, whatever the cost." A murmur spread through the gathered representatives, uneasy agreement mixed with lingering doubt. But not everyone was convinced. "Are we truly considering this?" A sharp voice cut through the room, belonging to a representative from the Sarthari Dominion, a reptilian species known for their own military strength. He had remained silent until now, listening and watching as the debate unfolded. Now, his emerald scales darkened in agitation as he finally spoke. We cannot simply accept that they will remain peaceful forever. The humans have spent their entire history crafting better ways to destroy. Who is to say they will not turn on us? Emsith sighed, pushing his spectacles higher on his nose. You assume they are without reason. Tell me, have the humans ever engaged in unprovoked galactic war? The Sarthari representative hesitated. No, but have they attacked without cause? Another pause. Not yet. Emsith leaned forward. Not yet, he repeated, because they do not strike without reason. They fight for survival, for security, for power, but unlike other warlike species we have encountered, they do not seek mindless conquest. Their wars are brutal, but they end them with diplomacy and treaties. They understand when to fight and when to stop. A representative from the Euron Pact, a species with bioluminescent skin, flickered their lights in agreement. And that is precisely why we must suppress them now, they argued, while we still have the chance. A murmur of uncertainty rippled through the chamber. The idea of containment was appealing, on the surface. Tok Van growled, "And how do you propose we suppress them?" His tone was laced with skepticism. The Euron representative hesitated. Economic sanctions, restrictions on technology exports, covert efforts to slow their advancements. Vrelk cut them off with a sharp click of his mandibles. You are suggesting we sabotage a species that has already surpassed us? That we provoke the very creatures who mastered destruction and restraint in equal measure? Silence. Emsith let out a dry laugh. Let us imagine for a moment that we succeed in stalling them. What do you think will happen when they discover our interference? The Euron representative's glow flickered uncertainly. Emsith continued, voice soft but heavy with warning. They will see it as an attack, and they will respond. He gestured to the holoscreen, which still displayed the ominous blueprints of humanity's next generation of weapons. And when they respond, it will not be with words. Tok Van folded his arms. We do not have the means to contain them, and if we try, we will fail. The chamber grew still. No one dared to deny the truth in his words. Finally, Vrelk straightened, his decision made. Then our path is clear. We do not resist them. We do not contain them. We stand with them, as their allies. The gathered representatives exchanged uneasy glances, each realizing the same truth. Humanity had not just survived their obsession with weapons, they had perfected it. And the only way to avoid becoming their next cautionary tale was to stand with them, not against them.